Thank you for joining us. It's been a while since our last video. I want to bring some of our department heads and leaders together to bring information to the public as to some of the things we're doing around the township here and what impact that may have on your day-to-day activities. Joining me today is, to my left, Chief Craig Augustoni, who's in our fire service, fire and EMS service, and also he wears the hat of the emergency management coordinator and also a supervisor in our code enforcement office, amongst many other things he does here in the community. And we thank him for all his efforts. And to my right, I have Mr. Daniel Hornicle, who is our business administrator here in the township. And joining us later will be Chief David King, our police chief, to give us some insight. Again, it's been a while since we've last spoke on the COVID pandemic, and we were bringing you videos during the early onsets of this, giving you updates as to what was going on throughout the county and throughout the country as the information was coming to us through the governor's office. Since that time, there's been a lot of changes in all of our lives in the way we go through our day-to-day activities, and we've made the adjustments as we move forward. But moving forward, first I'd like to say the COVID virus is real. It is something that you should be concerned about. It does affect many Americans, and I can personally tell you from personal experience, it is not a fun experience. So that being said, I encourage you to continue to follow the CDC guidelines, follow all of the state, county, and local guidelines in this effort so that we can get through this safely and get vaccinated. When it is your time to get vaccinated and help in this effort across the board. Again, the chief will talk to us a little bit about code enforcement when we get to him, and there's been a lot of comments in the community about seeing some increase in that area, so he can explain what is going on there. What I'd like to touch on here is the projects going on throughout the community. We hear from residents that they'd like to see certain things throughout the community, and it is our job to evaluate these suggestions and recommendations and decide which ones are important, which ones are relevant, which ones are doable and not doable. One of the things we hear often is you have to bring business to the town. You have to bring rateables to the town to maintain a stable tax structure. Some of the things that we are doing in that area to hold down the inflation that's going on everywhere and to maintain a stable tax base is development in the areas that have been designated for development for decades here in the township. And an example is the warehouse that is under construction at the South Pemberton Road and Birmingham Road intersection. That one warehouse has the potential to bring, when it's completed, close to, Daniel, I believe it's close to $500,000 a year.
Correct, Mayor.
In revenue to the township. That's a tremendous increase in revenue that we don't currently have. And we're looking at other projects. We have one on 206. Actually, we have two on 206 that are kicking the tires. They're looking under the hood now, getting ready to hopefully buy this car. They're doing a lot of work and due diligence to develop some additional sites out there. And these are areas that were designated for this type of development for decades, as I said, but never materialized. The Birmingham Pit area, as we all know, has been another area designed for development. These are areas that we are addressing with developers, and we're working with developers on redevelopment plans so that we can make it easier for these developers to come in to this community in harder times, but still be interested in us. And I say redevelopment plans. I don't want anyone to misconstrue that to think that we give away the store when we do these. We don't. That just gives us options. The redevelopment law allows us to have options to adjust certain zoning issues or make adjustments as to funding, and we can offer a structured payment from the developer, but nobody gets a free ride here. Everyone pays their way. If you come to Pemberton to profit, Pemberton profits also. That's always been our position, and we require the developers to actually show us and prove to us that a redevelopment plan is the only way that their project can actually work, and that's how we approach them. So we have those warehouse projects that are either under development now or in the queue and going through the due diligence stages. We have several housing projects in the township that are going through the due diligence stages. The Greenberg Farm is currently under contract for development. A national developer is looking at that property, doing their due diligence. They've actually done quite a bit and are far along, and we're meeting with them regularly to accomplish development on that farm. And then there's the old D.R. Horton site off of Pole Bridge Road. That's another site that will bring a large amount of residents into the area. And lastly, the Bobolink property that we were seeking to develop through a developer for approximately 14 years, 15 years or better, that never materialized, and it started long before my term. We finally broke ties with that developer and are going to move forward and bring somebody else into that. And I bring these housing development projects up because it's important. When you talk about redevelopment of your business district, you have to bring in people that want to bring that retail service or service-oriented businesses into your community. Well, every one of these developers that come in all look at your population, and they go by rooftops, how many rooftops you have. They look at population, census, and so forth. So the fact that we do not have the amount of residents that these developers are looking for, they don't look at us as strongly as we'd like them to, and they don't come and develop here. And that's been the driving force as to why the Browns Mill Shopping Center, the Juliustown Road projects have not jumped off the ground. These are prime locations. These are properties that in any other community, without, say, the Pinelands Commission that deal with, or the population issue, they would be jumping on these properties. But we're struggling to get folks in here. Now, that doesn't mean that we've not pursued the projects. The Browns Mill Shopping Center, we're actively in discussions with 3 major developers, and we have hopes that one of these developers will develop that site in the manner in which will benefit the community. We've had developers here that have proposed development on that site, which primarily benefited the developer, but that's not the way we should approach that site. Think about that location. It's right in the center of town on the main corner of our business district. It's been dilapidated for decades, and we finally took that property from the owner. We bit the bullet, we did what we had to do, and we now own it. Anything that happens going forward is ours. So if we don't do this right, and you only get one bite at the apple, when we take that step, it will be there for decades to come. So whatever it is, we want it to have longevity. We want it to be a sustainable project. And we also want it to serve the residents of Pemberton Township. So we're being very cautious. Some may say too cautious, but I can assure you that our uh, contact with these developers has been positive. They see our interest in developing in a way that benefits the residents, but also that they can benefit from the project also. So we're working towards that. The Juliustown Road area, you notice we purchased uh, various properties there. The old Bill's Auto, the JC's Market. We recently acquired Sun's Market. They will be moving across the street. They have a plan to renovate the old Charlie Van Horn site that they purchased, and they're going to be moving in there, which we're excited about because they will fix it up, and they'll have a larger building, and they provide a good service. But we will then have that entire site, and we'll begin to market that and get a redeveloper on that site. The there is a project that's been proposed, and we believe it is going to go through at the old Apel and Dietrich project. There's a national phone service that wants to come in and put a retail store there. It looks in the conceptual to be very nice. It's going to fit with our redevelopment plan downtown, and we look forward to them coming to the planning board and presenting their project. I think that's going to certainly enhance that area. Um, and I'd like to talk a little bit about water, our water division, and our water infrastructure. Uh, as you know, we recently purchased the New Lisbon water system from Burlington County. That's the big blue tower down here by Imagination Kingdom. That system uh, used to supply water to the college, but then also to all the county buildings across the street, and including the municipal building and parts of New Lisbon. That system itself was in very poor condition and run down, and minimal investments just to keep it up. And we felt it was an important resource here in the community that we, the residents here, should own that and control that and bring that into our already strong water infrastructure system. So we acquired that from Burlington County, and then we applied for a grant loan application through the Pinelands Commission, a DEP grant that they are managing, and we were successful in obtaining approximately 2.2 million.
It's the total project value.
Total, yeah. So there's a considerable amount of funds available for us to invest in this system. Our engineers are currently going through that project and evaluating, and we have some idea of what needs to be done. There's 2 wells on that project, some additional infrastructure for water mains, and the tank itself that needs to be redone. We're looking at how to apply that. The grant portion, I believe, is 40%. That's 40 cents on the dollar. It's hard to turn that kind of money down when you have to invest anyway in your infrastructure. The loan portion, low interest loan, I believe, is 50%, and then there's a municipal match, which is 10%, which I'll explain a little more about further on here. Then there's the Deborah system. Deborah had their own water system. We worked out a deal with Deborah to acquire their system, and you may say, well, why do we want that? Well, they have 2 wells which we're in the process of converting over to production wells for public wells, public service, and that's important because that strengthens our water supply to the residents. We just bought the tower back online across the street at the Stackhouse School. So we're evaluating whether that tower or the Deborah Tower is the better fix for our system. And, only one will be, stay online and the other will be taken out of service. So we're working through that project. And then there's the West Side project. That's a new project that we're working on to bring a water system on the west side. We have it on the southwest side at the Lake Valley Oak Pine system, and we want to bring water on the northwest side, which is the Johnson Court area where the Rails of Trail is, and in that area. That will give us a water supply that we can now give to our residents in that area, along with future development. As I mentioned, the development that's on its way to the Greenberg property will require water. So we will bring a system over there. And we're working on several directions on how to make this system work best. Where to place the wells, the infrastructure, a tank, and so forth. So we are looking to develop a new west side water system very shortly here. We've actually put in a test well at one location, and we have a observation well at another, and we're going through the planning stages as to where to go next and how to get this project developed. So that's important for a number of reasons. One, we currently buy water from Pemberton Borough. They are a water supplier for that side. So everybody across from the Wawa, Johnson Court, Pemberton Heights area, all that water comes from the borough and we buy it from them. We will no longer be dependent on that source. We would be a backup for Pemberton Borough. We would create redundancy so that not only are we getting water out of our system, we now have an additional backup for our neighbors in Pemberton Borough and them for us with their system. And then lastly, one of the long-term goals that I've been working towards is to interconnect as many, if not all of our systems as we can, meaning the Browns Mill systems that we have in place now that cover Browns Mills and part of our Country Lakes, the New Lisbon system that we recently acquired, which is in the center of our town, and then the Lake Valley Oak Pine system, and along with the West Side system. If we can interconnect as many of these systems as possible, if we have an issue with one of these isolated systems, we can then just switch over from one of our other systems and draw water there so that our residents will not be without water. Because if you think about it, if an area development loses water entirely, we have to now go into an emergency mode, and that's where Chief Augustoni will put on his emergency management hat, and we will go into emergency mode to try and figure out how to bring resources into that community. So that's the bigger long-term plan with water. Sewer is very active right now, our wastewater treatment plant and system. Daniel will talk about that in a few minutes. I'd like to talk about recreation a little bit. Our Director of Recreation, Joe Maroli, has recently prepared a parks improvement plan. We will have that on the web with additional information. He presented this at council on Wednesday, and we will update that a little bit with some photos of our current parks and some of the conceptuals of parks that are planned going forward. So I'll start with the Imagination Kingdom. Very popular park, probably the most popular park not only in the township, but it's up there with Burlington County. We get people coming from all over. Since its redevelopment, when we put the new equipment in there, we've had great success with it, but it's had some wear and tear. And this past year, we replaced the rubber surface in there. That's the unique surface that you don't see all over in parks. Mostly it's mulch, even here in the township, but that one the entire park is the rubber surface, and it makes that unique and very accessible, not only to the children that are using it, but it allows for our challenged individuals, handicapped individuals, to come onto the site also, and we certainly promote that. So we've done some work there. Bayberry Park, if you haven't been up there yet, that's the park at the end of West Lakeshore Drive in Browns Mills. I encourage you to go up, look at what our Public Works employees have done in that area. That now has a floating dock, a playground system. If you recall, if you've been here for a while, you'll know that was a basketball court hidden in the woods where pickup games usually ended up with problems with the police. We've eliminated all that. Very seldom do you see an officer even have to respond there. But that park is very, very nice on the lake. You know, you don't get much better than little pocket parks of that nature. The Mirror Lake Beach, we've done work there. We've done work in the playground park across the street, new playground that's been put in there. Same with Country Lakes off of Tensall. That's all been upgraded. The Chippewa Trail location off of in Country Lakes off of the lake, there's been some noise on the social media about that site and what is the town doing there. Well, we're redeveloping it. We're bringing a park to that side of the community. We have the one on the other side of the lake at Tensall, but there's no park on that side of the lake for families to bring their children to play. No play equipment, swing sets, and so forth. So what we decided the best use of that property was to bring in floating docks. We love people using our lakes. That's what they're there for. We have some of the most beautiful lakes in Burlington County and maybe in the state of New Jersey. So we want people to use them. We're going to put a floating dock in. We're going to allow fishing off of these docks. There's a boat ramp there that we upgraded so that you can boat from this location. The plan is to bring a playground structure there in the center of that. And then we're working on potentially putting a little walk path in there to go around that entire site. So to make it family friendly and hopefully see more children using that. And this is the park that's across the street from the Gene Ammerman Park in Country Lake. So we're excited about finally bringing a activity park over on that side of the development. Then there's the Reflections Park. As you can see driving through town, we've done a considerable amount of work at that. That's the park at the end of Mirror Lake, and we've purchased a house that was adjacent. We expanded our park. We've put parking lot in there so you can come in and park. It's been new sidewalks. It allows for ADA accessibility. We have a new floating dock coming in for that location also, which we'll be installing. That's on order. So we're doing work there. And of course, our annual Christmas tree will still be placed at that site. And actually, there'll be some excitement for that this upcoming year, but we'll save that for another time. The West End Park, that's the park off of Scrapetown Road. That's if you remember years ago, we bought, I say years, probably within the last 8 years or so, we bought the farm adjacent to our park that was owned by Light and Love Church. The 3 fields going down Scrapetown Road are now part of the park. We acquired a Green Acres loan grant, over $1 million to improve this site. We've been struggling through the process of getting through the Pinelands approval process to put a park in there. Originally, it was designed to be a soccer facility. We don't have soccer facilities here in the community. We have baseball, we have football, but Soccer is one thing we're deficient on, and we wanted to bring that to the community. The schools have soccer, but not the community. Pinelands would not let us do that. They were just adamant. It could not happen on that site. I still don't understand why, but we moved on. We presented them with a plan that involved a extensive walking trail throughout that project, that whole property, which will include, seating areas, picnic areas, and so forth. There'll be some open fields to run around, let the kids get the energy out. That project, finally, after about 4 years, has gotten through the Pinelands review process and is up at DEP for their review, which we anticipate should not be nearly as bad as the 4 years we went through. And we'll hope to get that done and possibly get that out this year for a developer to come in and build that for us. And I say a developer because we want to expand our resources. We have the ability to bring a developer in on that and let them do that while our public works, who are fully capable of doing this project, are doing other projects in the community because we have so many. And then a few more that are in the queue that you'll notice in the plan. We have the Blueberry Manor Park off of Weymouth that was taken down that is in the queue to be redeveloped. The Pole Bridge Park is in the queue to be redeveloped. The Nesbitt Park down here off of Pemberton Browns Mills Road, we recently paved the walking trail in there, and I encourage you, if you want a little walking trail, it's just about a half a mile, I believe, around that park. That's a great place. There's parking areas there. You can go down and walk that path, and we're just finishing up on repaving converting a tennis court into a basketball court there. So we have additional courts available. And I mentioned DPW, our Department of Public Works, and the work that they're doing here in the town. It never ends. They're constantly on projects, improving the town, the service throughout the community. The road program has been so successful that I can't boast enough about it. I've done it many times about the money that they've saved, millions, literally millions of dollars. We have documented they've saved the residents in what they've been doing. We wouldn't have been able to do without, at least not in a timely manner, without their efforts. We'd have been contracting out still, and you may never have seen your road done. The pothole season is here. We're getting the complaints. They're coming in, and we encourage, if you see a pothole, if you know of a location, let us know. We are in the process of leasing, once again, a device that's referred to as the pothole killer. It's used to fill potholes. It's used everywhere across this region, actually. And if you're riding around and you see a patch in the road that is off color, it's more white stone, that was done by a pothole killer. And it's everywhere now because it provides a long-term solution for filling a pothole and effective. And that should be, we should have that by April, at which point we lease it for a month at a time, and we'll be doing, I would say, literally a couple thousand potholes throughout the program again this year, as we've been doing. As I mentioned, we will be hearing from the police chief, and he'll give us some comments as to what they're doing throughout the town. One of the things that we're working on, a project that has been in the social media, we've been working on it for some time, but it seems like the recent actions are bringing social media to life on this issue, and that's the Sunbury Village area. We've been trying to work towards a solution to calming that neighborhood down, bringing that neighborhood into a more family-friendly neighborhood. as it was back in the 60s and 70s, early 70s, when it was still military housing. Um, and we've taken steps based on the request from the residents, meeting with residents and residents coming to council meetings. There was concerns about traffic in the neighborhood and the high speeds. We went in there and put speed humps in the entire neighborhood. Initially, that calmed it down. We heard about traffic lighting and the poor light, or the lighting situation in there. So we went in there through with a project through Jersey Central and upgraded all the street lights in that particular neighborhood to 90 luminous LED lights. It is very bright in there now in the evenings, and it certainly adds to the safety of moving around there at night. And we continue to hear about issues within the neighborhood, and the traffic is still a concern, and individuals that come there for reasons other than friendly, and how we can control that. And some of the suggestions that we've received was circulation patterns throughout the development and how we can get a better handle on that. So we came up with a plan that changes the circulation pattern in there, and it requires more calming devices and traffic devices that will calm traffic, either do not enters, road closures of certain areas, one-way traffic, and then also a no parking on the streets between 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. And the reason why that's important is because the area has been a place where individuals from other parts of the community and the county would come park along the streets at night and sit out there and play craps in the middle of the gamble in the middle of the street, or just hang out with loud music and so forth. And that generally leads to problems where the police have to be involved. So we're looking to take steps towards the solution, and there's many steps that will have to be taken, and we're already in the planning stages of the next steps. So this has been one of the steps that we decided to move forward with. Council introduced an ordinance to allow for these changes in the traffic patterns to occur. The steps going forward, we'll start looking at other agencies that could help us. The state of New Jersey has expressed a strong interest in helping us with this matter, so we are looking at their resources to bring into this neighborhood. So we will continue to add steps to this process until we actually, are able to, get to the solution, and that's, calming this neighborhood down and giving it back to the residents so that they feel safe within their community. And lastly, I'd like to touch on the this year's budget. Challenging, very challenging it has been. We lost a considerable amount of revenue this year. I believe it's close to $1 million. And short of cutting services short, and sometimes we hear that we don't get much service for our money in this town. I would beg to differ and ask anyone to go challenge anyone to go compare to other towns compared to what is provided here. I believe our employees provide a tremendous amount of service for what we are billed, and as a resident, we're all billed for it. But look at what you are being billed. Our taxes are some of the lowest taxes in the state of New Jersey. We're in the top, or the lowest 20 taxes out of 565 municipalities. We're down in the bottom 20 as far as taxes go. And the same with Burlington County. We're in like the bottom 3 of where, and the only 2 I believe are less than us is Pemberton Borough and Wrightstown. So for what we are getting for our taxes, I believe our budgets have been responsible. They've been managed so that we can provide an affordable place to live. I tell folks, if you can't afford to live in Pemberton, you almost can't afford to live in the state of New Jersey, which is, as we all know, expensive. But that being said, we're doing our best to keep it as affordable as possible. One of the things that we will be experiencing this year is funding that's coming down through the American Relief Plan. We are scheduled to receive a considerable amount of funding, and we'll see just what that is, not only on the municipal level, but also on the district level, the school district level. And our school district, who is also being challenged with revenue problems as they're being cut with relief, will impact our taxes. They're, I believe, in the process of going through $5 to $6 million per year for 5 or 6 years of lost revenue from funding from the state and so forth. So, these type of losses impact our tax base. They have to still provide services. So the only way they can make this revenue up is their school taxes go up, municipal taxes go up based on increases in contractual and material costs. So we try and do our best as a juggling act within the state's cap to which they provide for the residents of the state, controlling government agencies, municipalities, and so forth from just spending outright, and that is where we struggle as revenues come down, but our spending doesn't necessarily go up. In most cases, in most of our budgets, you'll know our spending plans have reduced. It's just the revenue side's not there, and that's why development is important to bring in additional revenue. It's better to put that burden on industrial or commercial use as opposed to the residential taxpayer. But we believe with the loss of revenue that we had this year, and we attribute a good portion of it to the COVID pandemic, and that's why the relief plan is coming down for assistance. We believe that assistance will help us to recover from that lost revenue, and we should be able to hopefully in the very near future present a responsible budget to council, and we can continue to move forward as an affordable place to live. So with that, I want to turn it over to the fire chief, code enforcement supervisor, and emergency management coordinator, and any other bill on his hat that he wears, which is many, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few, an individual that we should all be grateful in this community for the service he provides us, and the majority of it, most of it is volunteer, and everyone knows him as that. Our fire chief here at the Pemberton Township Fire Department, Chief Craig Augustoni. Chief?
Thanks, boss. Thanks for those very, very kind words, and for yourself and the director affording me the opportunity to address our residents on some concerns. So first of all, let's start with the newest endeavor that I was assigned. There's a little joke. I didn't attend that meeting, and all of a sudden I had a new job. So the life lesson I learned there was to be at all meetings. Code enforcement. Let me begin by telling the community that the main purpose of the Code Enforcement Division is to ensure safety to the community and to ensure that your quality of life when you live inside our community is represented properly, that we are there to support that and make sure that you are enjoying a quality of life. It is not fines. It is not court appearances. It is compliance. And so with instruction from the mayor's office and the business administrator's office, what we did, the first task, is we reorganized our office. We're grateful to the mayor and to the business administration and the council to affording 2 new trainees, bringing the code enforcement office up to, with myself, a total of 5 individuals. The first thing I did is I went in and looked at the 30,000 foot view and noticed that we needed to reorganize as to what collateral areas that the CEs had for the township of Pemberton. So I assigned them individual areas so that they could focus on that. And the two senior people we have in there that have been employed the longest, you have to remember, before the other two got on, we're working 2 people working 65 square miles. And they did a yeoman's job in doing the best they could. But we do have problematic areas, so we're focusing on them. But I want to reiterate as I go through this portion of code enforcement that it is not our intention to fine people and to bring in revenue through the means of fines. It is compliance for safety and for the quality of life that every one of our residents should be assured. So we've done a few things. I know talking to the boss, I know where he must be effective because he said his phone's on fire, which is good. We have had a lot of concerns about house numbering and why are we focusing on that and not other issues. But we are focusing on all the issues. But if I'm going to put all 3 of my hats on here about house numbering, and to be very honest with you, it's kind of puzzling to me why somebody would not want their house number on their house. It ensures that we can identify you on the emergency services way, on an expeditious way. So it is not the total focus of code enforcement to come out and cite you for not having a house number in it. It's twofold. We should know where you live, and when you call 911, I think everybody would agree with me that we certainly want to locate you as expeditiously as we can. But while we were there, it shouldn't be the sole purpose while there. It could be, we could get a complaint and we're there. And if that's the only violation you have, it's very, very simple to fix. You put the house numbers on it and we abate it. And there's no court appearance, no fines and nothing. We move on and everybody's happy, got a number on there. So the other thing is we have areas in the municipality we are identifying right now that are more problematic than others. And we will be going in as a team and looking through those areas, scrubbing them, and identifying those properties that need to be corrected. We're talking about doing what we call a code of the week, which we will go onto our website and let you know a little bit about that code and what it means. Then, of course, we encourage you, if you think or see a code violation, that you contact the municipality so we could get on it as quickly as we can. And you can do that in 2 fashions. You're more than welcome to email me, and then I will assign it to the appropriate code enforcement officer. Or we have a function on our website that you can log the complaint, and it is anonymous, and then we will get on it. So my instructions to the code enforcement officers are to go out and do their due diligence. And I will not tolerate any code enforcement that is basically targeting people. So code enforcement is across the board. Anybody that knows me, all the people that work for me, both here as code enforcement and the fire department, I give everybody a fair shake. And but we want our community to be the best to live in, and we will not, in direction of administration, we will not tolerate anybody that is junking up our community, if that's a proper word. So, but if you have a problem, I'm always available to speak to you about it. I encourage you to look at the code enforcement sections of the code. And like I said, what we're going to be doing when we go out into these community areas that we have identified, we're going to put a little notice out that we're going to be coming out. That should be a hint to have your house in order when we're coming around. And we are starting next week with our recycling. That means we're going to be checking your cans to make sure that they have the proper recycling in them. So there's your tip of the day that we're going to be out and about. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is our emergency management. As the mayor alluded to at the beginning of the video here about the pandemic, we continue to monitor that through our state and county partners. There's a load of information that we get every single day. We get a report every day that is shared with the administration here, and all that information is basically available. I'm very, very encouraged when I make my visits around the town that our folks are adhering to the CDC guidelines with the masks and the social distancing. As the mayor indicated, this is real. We've done a very, very good job on it, and we're very, very proud of our residents. Vaccinations, very, very important. They're available. We put out information through our website where they are at. I know they're coming to a few more facilities within our community. I do encourage you to seek that if you can. So with the pandemic, that's kind of like normalizing a little bit, but we stay focused on it and monitor it every single day. The other thing I want to talk about in emergency management, the hurricane season's coming up in June. We are in the middle of wildfire season, which I'll get to in a second, but everybody should have a plan. We should not be preparing our plan when the winds are at 100 miles an hour. We have an opportunity right now. All this stuff is on our webpage. You can download all a family plan. You should have all of this stuff in place so if an event occurs, that we all can survive it together. We monitor the weather constantly, and if you're on any of our social media channels, you know that we push out tons and tons of information to everyone when we have it. But I encourage everybody to have a plan, including your pets. We have Registered Ready, which takes care of our folks with disabilities. And if you have any questions, once again, I encourage you to email me, contact me, which I'll give you my phone number at the end of the my segment. Call me, and we'll guide you through that. Last but not least, which is my real passion, is our fire department and fire and emergency medical services. Currently, we're just working very, very hard. Our men and women of the fire department are constantly responding to calls and constantly training and trying to bring to our residents the best service that we can, and I think that we do. We are fully in our Presidential Lake Station. We just put the water tender out there the other night. So located in that house is an engine, a water tender, and an ambulance. So we're fully functional out there. We were out there last night doing our local checks. But we continue to try to perfect our operation and bring the best that we can, the best professional service to our community, which I know that we do. Last year we were a little slower, knock on wood, with our fires, and we had a pretty busy year, but not as busy as the year before. Talking about wildfire, we are in wildfire season here in the state of New Jersey. It runs from March 15th to May 15th. Enhanced wildfires can happen anytime in our state. We're a very, very unique state, and over the weekend, there was a massive fire in Lakewood, and I'm sure it was all over the channels. So don't think that can't happen here. In 1963, a fire started here in the town of New Lisbon and burnt all the way to the Barnegat Bay. In fact, that was the fire break, the Barnegat Bay.
Where there's so much smoke, there must be a tremendous fire. We're flying at 8,000 feet, but the billowing cloud soars still higher. A vast devouring blaze sweeping the New Jersey pine forest. From high altitude, it's a towering triumph of smoke. From a lower altitude, the burning of the pine wood shows a plainer face of fiery havoc. A picture study of 100 blazing square miles, photographed by Jack Kuhn, Movietone's flying ace cameraman. Suppose he had to make a forced landing in that. The flames leap 200 feet high with a giant dancing and flickering, a wild blaze of burning pine, every tree a torch. Somebody tossed a careless match or cigarette or built a thoughtless fire, and dry pine burns like tinder. Lives imperiled, 5 lost, desperate escapes. The sky looks on the burning earth. Inferno in New Jersey.
So we need to be very, very cognizant about fires in general, outdoor fires. The other day when the wind was blowing very, very hard, in fact Saturday, we had to respond to a resident that actually had an open fire in their backyard. So that is not permissible. You need a permit if the fire, if you're going to have a campfire that is on your ground, that requires a permit. The fine is very steep if you do not have the permit. Chimeneas, what they call those elevated fire pits, do not require a permit, but they can be monitored. You could have a smoke issue. So just because you have an elevated fire pit and/or a chimenea doesn't mean that it's unregulated. We can stop you at any time. Common sense, that's what we have to use. If the wind is blowing 100 miles an hour and we have 12% humidity, I don't think it's the time to be sitting around the campfire. And we could have lots of problems. You could think the fire is out, and that's how the fire in '63 started. It came out of a trash barrel. We had a fire in 2010 that burned 400 acres in Country Lakes from an unattended overnight campfire. The fire, they believed it was out. The winds came up, grabbed the embers, and we had a mess. So also, we provide at the municipality and on our webpage this brochure that gives you some tips about protecting your property. The fire department does offer a service to come out and do a evaluation of your property to see how you stand as far as wildfire, and that information is on our website also. Excuse me. You can also email us through the website, and we'll schedule an appointment for you with you to come out and do an evaluation. But we have all kinds of, see I have all these props, all kinds of information here at the municipality that talks about wildfire and all kinds of fire education. Last but not least, we are still looking for members. This brochure is available on our website and also at our facility here. We encourage you to join the local fire department. We will train you. It's a great organization to belong to, and I hope you can see this. Simply, do you have what it takes? Come out for the challenge. Be a part of this incredible team, and it is an incredible team. And you will have dividends paid back tenfold. It's been a great organization to belong to. And at this time, I just want to thank the mayor, the council, and our business administrator, who's our fire director. These guys do everything that they can to ensure that your fire department, all your emergency services have the tools that are necessary to meet our mission. So, Mayor, I appreciate yourself and the council, and of course our outstanding fire director for all the support you give us.
Thank you, Chief. As the Chief said, COVID is real, and we encourage and actually are requesting that everyone still maintain, social distance, masking, following the CDC guidelines, the guidelines put out by the governor, and just get your shot when you're eligible to do so. I'm still trying to find a location and get in on. It's not easy, but when you're eligible, and they say come May everyone will be eligible, and if the shot's available, get it. At this time, I want to turn it over to our business administrator, Mr. Daniel Hornicle, who can give us some more insight on some of the activities that are going on here around the town and the business that we're dealing with. Daniel?
Thank you, Mayor. And Chief, nice job over there. Thank you very much for everything you do. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Hornicle. I'm the business administrator here for the township. And as the mayor said, I want to follow up on some of the activities that we're embarking on and fill you in and provide you with more information. As the mayor explained, we have a lot of different development or redevelopment projects going on here in the township. In addition to the ones the mayor mentioned, we are also actively, on behalf of the county and the college, marketing the old BCC campus and across the street, the minimum security jail that was demolished by the county a few years ago. We're marketing those properties in addition to, as the mayor explained, the Bobolink tract and the Note Boom tract, which is in downtown Browns Mills. I want to also follow up on water. As the mayor mentioned, we have a lot of active projects going on in water. A couple of additional projects I want to bring to the public's attention. in 2020 and 2021, we are looking to rehabilitate the Beach Street and Trenton Road tanks, which will encompass cleaning those tanks, repainting those tanks, upgrading the safety equipment related to those tanks. And beginning in May, we're actually also going to be extending water service down Scrapetown Road and into Rato Village, and hopefully around the vicinity of Scrapetown and Magnolia Road. So we're excited about that. We're going to be bringing fresh potable water to township residents with, as the mayor mentioned, our ultimate goal of extending the New Lisbon water system over to the Oak Pines Boulevard tank and the Lake Valley tank as well. So we have a lot going on over in the Water Division of Public Works. I want to fill you in on the Sewer Division. As many of you are aware, the township recognized a need to dissolve the MUA because of what we observed as being a need to, rehabilitate our wastewater treatment plant, also called the sewer treatment plant, and the accompanying collection system. So some of the things that we have done so far, which may seem kind of minor, but are very important to running a sewer treatment plant. We've been upgrading the buildings and rehabilitating the plant itself. What I mean by that is we've been doing some simple things, just like cleaning out the buildings, repainting the buildings, fixing things that were broken in the buildings. Our handrails, we have guardrails and handrails throughout the plant that protect the structure and serve as a safety measure for our employees. We've been sanding them, replacing them, or repainting them. And then we have a lot of piping, whether it's underground piping or above ground piping, that we've been replacing. And in a separate video the mayor and I did about the sewer treatment plant, we explained the process of how we treat sewage that comes into the plant. And the process begins with what are called the headworks in the grit chamber. And so far, over the course of 2020, we've actually rehabilitated the initial phase of the sewer treatment process, and that is we rehabbed the Gritworks building. We put on a new door. We put in a new comminutor, which is a device that filters the water and removes anything floating. And we have rehabilitated and replaced the equipment, the pumping in there, which encompassed a 2,000-pound screw drive that sends the sludge over to the anaerobic digester. Additionally, this in late spring, early summer, we're going to rehabilitate the final stage of the wastewater treatment process by replacing the UV system. That's literally the fourth stage of making sure that the water that's treated when it's discharged to the north branch of the Rancocas Creek is not harmful to the ecosystem within the creek, and certainly water that's drawn from the creek downstream by the municipalities. So we're going to be replacing the UV system. It's already been ordered. We're just waiting for the parts to come in. We've hired the contractor that's going to remove the existing equipment and install the new equipment. And then, and this is a very big project, we're going to be rehabilitating 5 of the 18 pump stations that either pump water to the plant or pump water within the plant. So one of the pump stations is at the entrance to the plant. There's 3 pumps there that pump the sewage, what we call the influent, up to the headworks. We're going to be replacing the pumps there, and then we're going to be replacing 4 stations in the field. Pump stations 2, 4, and 5, one of which is located in Pemberton Borough, as well as pump station 3, which is in a design phase over in Sunbury Village. We're going to be replacing the equipment in all of those pump stations, and this has a twofold benefit. The first thing is we're going to be replacing pumps that are 35 years or older with newer pumps, meaning that the pumps themselves are going to be more efficient And more importantly, we're not going to be spending as much in electrical cost to operate those pumps. So we're going to be improving the pumps. More importantly, the controls that turn those pumps on and off, and that will save a good deal of electrical. And then from our employees' perspective, we're going to be improving the safety of those pump stations to make them safer for employees that have to access those pump stations. So we're happy to do that, and we have the funding in place to do that. And we're going to continue on with those projects. And then lastly, at the sewer treatment plant itself, we're going to be rehabilitating and reconstructing a number of the buildings there. And one of the buildings that we're going to add to that is a 10-bay vehicle garage with a wash. Right now, our Public Works Department doesn't have any location where after we dispense salt on a snowstorm, that they can bring the trucks in and wash the salt off the trucks. Salt is very damaging to our heavy equipment. It eats it away. We often are paying to replace the bodies of the pickup trucks that we use to clear the intersections because the bodies are rotted out by the salt that they're carrying in the back and distributing on the roadways. So if we can get this 10-bay garage constructed, we can store equipment, get it out of the weather, and also have that one bay where we can wash the equipment down and extend the useful life of both our vehicles and our heavy-duty equipment that loads the salt onto the trucks. Next, I just want to follow up on what the mayor was mentioning as our various parks improvement projects. So in addition to the new projects we have underway, in addition to the plan put together by Rec Director Maroli last year between the Parks Maintenance Unit in the Recreation Department and our Public Works Department, we also rehabilitated the playground equipment, installed new playground equipment out at Bianchini Beach in Presidential Lakes, and it looks beautiful. If you haven't gone out there, I would encourage you, to take your kids out there. They're playing right next to one of the most scenic places in Pemberton Township, Presidential Lake itself, Washington Lake, Jefferson Lake, whatever name by which it goes. The equipment over there is terrific. And then complementing the Parks Improvement Program is a new master trails and bike lanes plan that we have put together. Our goal is to enhance the quality of all of our residents, especially those in our various developments and neighborhoods, by improving the parks, but also connecting our communities one to another. So we're looking at ways to connect country lakes to presidential lakes up to the center of town here by the municipal building, and then of course from the municipal building and Imagination Kingdom, ways to connect Browns Mills, and then where we can also have either walking or biking trails in our Browns Mills neighborhoods. Two more for you. Hold on with me, bear with me here. I want to talk for a moment about our facilities. So within the past 3 years, here at the municipal complex, we constructed a brand new Public Works office building. And then what we did was we took an existing addition connected to the municipal building that was used for the police department, and we relocated that and attached it to the new Public Works office building and overhauled it. We basically recycled a modular addition and greatly extended the life of it by moving it to the Public Works building and attaching it. In its place, this year, we will be constructing a new modular addition to the municipal building to house some of the police department operations, such as providing our officers with new locker rooms and new offices for one of our lieutenants, administrative staff, and the police chief. As the mayor mentioned, we upgraded or enhanced our staff in the police department. Within the past 6 months, probably say 8 months, we have hired 12 new officers, 10 of whom are in the academy, and 2 more that are, road ready, academy trained already. The chief mentioned we added 2 new full-time code enforcement officers, doubling the staff in that office. And we also added 3 new employees in Public Works to the Streets and Roads Division to be our dedicated tree crew, and they are already having an impact in town. A couple of other items. In 2020, we hardened our municipal building. What that means is within each of our office suites, we demolished the foyers, rebuilt them using cinder blocks, stainless steel for counters, and safety glass so that we could make the municipal building safer to both our employees and residents coming in and minimize the possibility of the COVID virus being transmitted from the public to the staff or vice versa. Lastly, by way of reminder, and the chief touched upon it, in 2020 we also completed the brand new public Presidential Lakes Firehouse and Community Center. So that's both a recreational facility that we added to that location across the street from Orion Branch Park. Plus, we built a new state-of-the-art firehouse that we now house equipment in. My last item for this discussion is we are very active in the field of solar. As many of our residents are aware, Pemberton Township has been very active in this regard. We're undoubtedly the largest alternative energy producer in Burlington County, and we may even be the largest alternative energy producer in the state. Granted, when the wind goes offshore, that might give us competition. But as far as solar panel, here's what we have in the queue for 2020 and for 2021 and probably extending into 2022. We're going to, at our library, the Burlington County Library branch at Pemberton, which we own, it's our library, we're looking to have rooftop solar later this year installed at that location. That will give us the ability to greatly diminish the cost of running that building. It's a very large building. It has expensive heating and air conditioning costs to run it and lighting as well. So installing solar there will dramatically, over the course of 20 years, greatly reduce our consumption from the grid and actually supply the grid. Once we have that project up and running, we're looking at bringing solar to the wastewater treatment plant, the sewer treatment plant. We believe that is a great spot for solar, because the sewer plant is very energy dependent. So bringing solar to that location will enable us to reduce the cost of running that plant. And then we also want to look at bringing solar to the municipal complex, whether that's rooftop installations or perhaps a combination of rooftop and some solar panels at our field next door. That's an area that we want to help the township control our expenses. And then, as many of you may be aware, probably the most ideal location is the old township landfill out on Pasadena Road. We have the opportunity there to redevelop that parcel. We are in discussions with the developer about capping it. It's capped, don't get me wrong, but putting a permanent cap on there and then building a up to 10 megawatt solar field that can connect to the grid and more importantly for us, generate new property tax ratables that we can bring in as revenue. So those are some of the active projects. We have other solar installations that developers have approached us throughout the town, whether it be on the top of warehouses or on other underutilized sites that are already cleared and available for solar. So we have a very exciting 5 years ahead of the township, and these are some of the projects that we're working toward to make Pemberton Township a better place to live and work. And just before I turn it over to the mayor, Councilman Gardner is behind the screen. He's been the one that's been asking the mayor and I to provide these updates. We greatly appreciate your efforts, Councilman Gardner, to not only get us to do this, but bringing in the equipment and being our director and producer of these various video endeavors. So thank you, and Mayor, I'm going to turn it over to you again.
Thank you, Daniel. And as you heard me say, COVID is real. Please don't let down your guard yet. I know the governor is starting to relax on some of the requirements, their gatherings, businesses and so forth, which is good. We need to move back slowly in this process, but be careful and be aware that this is a serious problem, has been for the past year, and will continue as long as you're not careful. It will be your problem someday, and you don't want that. It hurts. Trust me, I know personally. It is a painful experience, something you don't want to, and I hope that you never have to go through. Daniel mentioned the compliments to the chief, and I'd like to also express that understanding that our fire department and our fire company is a volunteer organization, an organization which I have worked with for literally decades as a police officer and now as the mayor, and have continued over the years to come to respect even more the work they do for the community and continue to do, and the money that they save our residents in saving lives, what they do every day. And they're dealing with this pandemic also. Imagine having to take that ambulance to someone's house and then not knowing that they had COVID, and you could be infected. Doesn't stop them. Emergency responders take that on every day, and they know the risk. They accept the risk. They take the precautions, of course, but it has to be recognized that they do a tremendous job and service for our community. To go along with our police who face that same challenge every day in their jobs. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Chief David King, and he can give us a little update as to what efforts his department is taking to keep our community safe and provide a better way to live here in Pemberton. Chief King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for inviting me to this, and welcome everyone. I've been asked here today to discuss some of the programs and services that the Pemberton Township Police Department provide to the residents. First, I want to get this out. Our tip line number for confidential tips is 609-894-3352. The non-emergency number for the police department is 609-723-8300. And that goes directly to Central Dispatcher, and they will dispatch an officer. Our website is www.pembertonpolice.com, and our Facebook page is at Pemberton TWP Police. On our website, we have vacation checks, OPA requests, and officer complaint or compliment forms that you can fill out. I'm going to touch on some things, some quality of life issues first of all. With the warm weather and the pandemic combined, people have been confined at home for a period of time, and there have been an issue with ATVs or off-road vehicles going through residential neighborhoods. Rest assured, we have written and served several search warrants over the past year to collect those ATVs if we can identify the operator, excuse me, and where the ATV is located. Just remember, we're bound to enforce the law that are written by the legislators that we all elect, so that there are things that we can and can't do. for example, like, as I say, we write those search warrants to go secure those ATVs once we identify the rider, and it has to be for an indictable or a first, second, third, or fourth degree offense. And we've been using the tool of eluding the police department. If we turn our lights, activate our sirens, signal for the rider to pull over and stop, and they fail to do so or refuse to do so, and we can identify and locate those vehicles, we write and we secure those ATVs. We posted no trespassing signs, or our Public Works has, rather, in the Presidential Lakes Pits area. And we are working on doing a better job of trying to enforce those. But again, just keep in mind that we are bound by, state, federal statutes, as well as Attorney General and prosecutor directives. One of which will be if we go to stop or pull over a rider of an ATV and they refuse to stop, that we do not pursue. The pursuit policy in New Jersey, we do not pursue for that offense. It just becomes too great a danger for the rider, the motoring public, or people that happen to be walking around in your neighborhoods, and ultimately, and lastly, the police officer chasing. So we don't do that. It's a risk versus reward rule. We got a grant in 2019, which ultimately we finally took possession of body-worn cameras that we now all wear. The state recently mandated, or they're in the process of, that all police departments have body-worn cameras, and I think it's a great idea because, the camera doesn't lie. It accurately records what events took place. So, we mandate that any interaction with the public, we activate our body-worn camera. So, in the event that, someone's unhappy or not satisfied with the services that they received, and lodge a complaint, which we welcome those types of complaints, we can go back and see exactly what took place. If it's a training issue, if the instance didn't happen, or recollection sometimes aren't 100%, so it may not have happened quite the way it was recalled. I want to warn everyone about there's an uptick in the email scams where people will send emails that you've inherited X amount of dollars from a long lost relative in Great Britain or wherever, and they're the executor of the will. Rest assured that if you've never heard of that relative, it's not a good idea to send money. No time. No one like that in any sort of position like that will ever ask for your personal credentials. The same with the phone scams, the auto warranty, what's another one? You've won a trip somewhere. They're never going to call you and ask for credit card information, personal identifiers. If you won something, they should already have your identifiers or what they need. Be careful about the Facebook pop-ups for merchandise. Sometimes that's not always legit either. You will order, like, say, a jersey, thinking that you got a great deal on it, when in essence, it's someone from somewhere else who's going to take your money, and hopefully they only take that payment and not more. And you will never receive the goods. There's also been an uptick in people in the neighborhoods walking around representing, trying to represent like utility companies or salesmen for windows or whatnot. We issue solicitor's permits. We have an ordinance. The permits are issued through the police department. We take a picture. We do a background check. So if they have that ID signed by the chief of police, whomever that may be at the time, with their picture, their photo ID, that's it. If you're ever not sure, always ask for an ID. Don't open the door. Just ask for an ID, or that to satisfy yourself. And if you're not, like I say, call that non-emergency number, that's 723-8300, and report that to the police department. Anybody working for a utility service should always have the proper ID and uniform. And again, if you're not sure, if you get that feeling, call the police department. We'll be more than happy to come out. And we've handled several of those already. And trust me, they get the ordinances enforced. They're escorted, out of the area, and they will be coming to court for that. We are working on getting an online reporting for, obviously non-emergency situations, if you just want to call and report that, there's a cat problem in this area. You can always email or go on the Facebook page and put that complaint out there, but we're working on getting a proper form for that sort of online reporting. We're also working in areas, problematic areas. There in one in particular that we are working with the engineers, the mayor, and the engineers to redesign and re-engineer the traffic flow pattern to see if that calms offenses down in this particular area. There's been a lot of speculation, a lot of talk about cameras. We should put cameras in areas. Cameras are certainly a great tool. They're not the end-all be-all for stopping crime. It's a great tool. We pull camera footage routinely from a lot of people have Ring doorbell systems or the Comcast cameras. We pull those routinely for review, but rest assured that nothing's going to be 100%. It is a great tool in some instances. However, it's sometimes difficult to identify subjects that are committing these offenses or crimes. Based on now COVID, the pandemic, everybody's wearing a face mask. It's not out of place for that. That's one deterrent. There's a lot of low light, even though we've increased significantly the lighting in this area. It's still nighttime conditions. It's very hard to identify people at times from a camera system. And like I say, it records the crime so that we can, sometimes go back and try to figure out who committed the crime. Again, it's not 100%. It's not even 70, I would say, that happens. And I think that's about all that I have to say. We do have the water carnival coming up. We're going to try to go with that this year. So look for that. There's some other programs in place. And again, if you feel at any time that you have a complaint about an officer or a situation, we never shut down. We work through the entire thing 24/7. We're here. Feel free to call, email. All of our emails are linked to the township's website. It's just that easy. Or come in. We would, welcome you to come in and we'll talk about, whatever the issue is. But never hesitate to call the police department and report something. We appreciate the help. And quite frankly, a lot of the things that we do could not be accomplished without the help of the good citizens of Pemberton Township. We have 47 people, and that counts people in the academy right now, police officers. But we heavily rely on the 30,000 plus residents as force multiplier to point out problem areas or witness, be good witnesses if something happens. So we really appreciate that. And with that being said, again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and back to you.
Thank you, Chief. And with that, I'd like to close first by thanking the members of our governing body here in Pemberton Township. We do an awful lot in administration through the mayor's office and the business administrator. Every day we're dealing with the day-to-day operations of this community. And it is very challenging at times, but also very rewarding. We could not do that without the support of our council. Our council members are posed with a difficult challenge. We're bringing them projects constantly and changes constantly that we are seeing that we believe need to be done here in the community. And we try to bring them the ones that are most meaningful and will have the greatest impact on our community so that their decisions are easier to make, knowing that they care so much about the community and they want to improve it. We allow them to make those decisions by presenting them with projects and changes that make sense not only for the community but in their minds also. But without them and without their support, it doesn't happen. So we do thank our council for supporting our community. Again, the work that they do, and very few understand how much is involved. But that being said, we are very open. As you well know, we have information on our webpage. We encourage you to go there. That most municipalities don't give the public unless you ask. We have it there. We feel you have a right to know. We try and get everything we can on that webpage. We encourage the residents to be a part of the solution and not the problem. And I say that by, if you're doing nothing, you can't expect anything to get done. But by calling us, not hesitating to give us your opinion on a matter, whether we agree with it or not, we will listen to it, and giving suggestions as to what should be done in the town, telling us what is going on in the town. If you see, as I mentioned earlier, that pothole, report it to us so we can fix it. If you see something that's out of place in the town, 64 square miles, it's a big community. It's hard to be everywhere, but we have to do it together. So we ask the residents, be a part of the solution. Don't hesitate to call us. Between Monday and Friday, between 8 and 4, 8 and 4:30, you can call in here at 609-894-3315, the number at the bottom of your screen, and you will get a live person. That is not going to be a recording. That'll be one of our clerks in the administrative office that will either direct you to the person you need to talk to or take a message and someone will get back to you. If it's after hours, you can certainly leave a message at that number. You can go on our webpage. Emails are available for all of our departments, for all of our members of council, our legislative body, and also for our administrative, myself, Mr. Hornicle. We're all available and reachable, and we encourage you to be a part of the solution. So with that, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to all the comments that we've had here today. I want to thank the members that have participated, Chief Augustoni, Chief King, and our business administrator, Daniel Hornicle, that provided information and insight as to some of the things that we're doing here in the town. I can, without hesitation, tell you there's many more daily activities that go on throughout our departments, and we just touched slightly on Public Works. That's one of our largest departments and one of our most active departments. I can assure you they are very active. If you go on our webpage, you can find our activity reports for our departments, and you'll see and probably be surprised at how much is actually going on here, but we encourage that. So be involved in your community, be a part of the solution, and again, thank you for joining us.